Sanctuary wall. Incentives to everybody. Just start something right from files my own yet. It's fine that some years you come out with some safety mindset after this
Gary, can you just say something? I want to see if this will pick up. Trust.
Let me say something.
Yeah, you're good. Thanks.
It's actually. Coffee was wrong. Probably worse place. Get a fire. Download it.
Mark's probably out replacing a culvert. That's second or third one of the day.
Yeah. Some floods that shut there, those were right. That's right. How are you? Yeah, it's I know it's snowbird again. Yeah. Keep my ears. They're looking for something. It's like the 70s or we ran around more. You're now. We got a game lot. What? Absolutely yes. You look good. I know that. You can see what's wrong with Mark, they're legally financial. Yeah. Yes, or not. Good morning. I'm gonna call the meeting to order now. Hope everybody had a chance to get some coffee or something. We're here to talk mostly about buildings. But after I call the meeting to order, we have one quick vote we have to do. That's time sensitive that came up the last meeting. So I will call the meeting to order at 9:08, I believe. Of the select board of Brookline, Vermont, on October 18th at 9 a.m. Now under introductions, can we just go around and have everybody say their name? Is that okay? Sure. I'm Mike DeSocio.
Doug Wellman.
I'm here.
Why don't we go this way?
I'm Vanessa Below. Trisha Mellon.
Bruce Bell.
Marjorie Ray.
Heather Seidman.
Danny Hadley.
Gary Livornia.
Lori Now, my kitchen.
What?
Brand Moore. Vivian Parker. Julia Roach. Fallon Megan. Thank you.
Stan Houghton.
And lost in something.
David Parker. Dan Towler.
Melissa Schmidt,
John Lennon.
Lee Angelson,
Alan.
Bob one.
Wow.
Thank you, everyone. We just have, I'd like to make a motion on behalf of Mark. And to, that that the town of Brookline apply for, I think it's called a Better Back Roads Grant. The deadline for that is coming up, and so he will be able to move forward after we take that vote. May I have a second? Emily will second that motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, select board members, please signify to support the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous, the motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to item B on the agenda, I'd like to make a motion that we turn over chair of the rest of the meeting to our town moderator, David Parker.
Second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all the select board members in favor of turning the meeting over to our town moderator, Dave Parker, signify by saying aye. Aye. It's unanimous. David, thank you. I turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you. Just a couple of things before we get going. I presume we all know why we're here. But I'll just reiterate what the board has published. The purpose of the meeting is to seek input from town residents regarding town buildings due to the recent vacancy of the Tree School building where we sit here. Unlike the last special meeting where the board presented to us a couple of different options that they were throwing out there for consideration. At this time, the board has no plans. They're here strictly to gather information from town residents as to what direction you think things should go. So they're not going to be presenting option 1, option 2, option 3, anything like that. They're here to listen. Okay, and we want to make sure that everybody who has something to say has a chance to do that. And that's my job, is to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to speak if we want to. When you do that, because this is a legal meeting and we're being recorded, if you'd like to say something, just raise your hand. I will acknowledge you, and then you can go ahead and speak. I'd like you to state your name first before you speak. There's a 10-minute limit that Robert sets on comments, so I think we can probably hold to that. The board will answer questions, so if you want to raise your hand and ask a question, we'll give the board an opportunity to do that, to reply to you, go back and forth. So hopefully we can all do this in a very civilized and efficient way, and make sure that everybody has a chance to speak their piece and do that. So, anyway, Gary Laborn.
I have a suggestion that we go by the 2B rule. Be brief and be seated.
Okay, I'm all for being concise. Yes, I mean, 10 minutes is a long time to speak, and you know, your neighbor may give you a nudge to the side after 8 minutes to say enough. Anyways, yeah, we can begin. So, anybody have ideas as to what
Well,
should happen?
why don't I start with one? I'll be brief and a little bit about that. You see them, I can't. Okay, first of all, I want to state, 11 plus years on a red pine oak, if I'm interrupted, I've been on the select board. It's always occurred to me that all the select boards have been focused on one thing, that's health and safety of everyone. Especially if you'll know how the roads are. And I just wanted to state before I say anything down the road, that the road is smooth. Really smart. That's no surprise. But the point is that the priority of the select boards is working up to this point, I think to keep the roads open, health and safety welfare of the of that first. buildings and secondary. But I feel that that's really the most important thing is keeping the roads open, keeping the health, so safety, welfare of the people paramount. At the end of the meeting, if anybody wants to ask specific questions about any of the buildings or wants any kind of tour, and come to see me, I'd be happy to do that at some other time or today. I've seen every part of every one of these buildings, you realize, except for the attic in the town office, but I've been under every wall space and every attic, every nook and cranny, pretty much in every one of those buildings. So if anybody has this reference. Lastly, it came to my attention last week. Everybody know who Steve Burton is? He's NBC Sports on Channel 4, and his father was first one drafted in the AFL in 1960. Well, actually, someone. And he said to his children, now Steve grown up, something, and then when he said it to his kids, and they're all sports people, and he says, you have to have an aim, you have to have a goal. And he said, so well, I don't have a goal. And who aims at nothing will hit it every time. Those who don't have a goal will always hit it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the intention of this meeting is to find a direction to go towards some kind of a goal and accumulate information from the folks so that we select board can make the appropriate decisions and present it to the town about something. So, right. Very good.
So yeah, I just wanted to briefly mention that the primary purpose is to talk about the future of this building because, you know, we've lost our tenants here. But when Bruce talked about the buildings, I just want to make sure you guys were clear on what we own and maintain now, which is this building, the meeting house right next door, the town office, and the buildings on the property of the town shed.
And around.
And the round schoolhouse. Thank you, Dot. That was it. Lori and then Garrett.
I guess my question is, so what is the actual condition of this building? You know, as I look up, I see
I know.
kind of some things. And that's only in this room. So what is the actual condition? So, you know what?
I would say when I started looking around this buildings, this building is.
Shut this. I didn't put my hair.
How am I doing now?
All right.
Okay, thank you. I really told you, never mind, like I said. When I first started working on these buildings, I call them buildings because they're really two together in 1927, which is school, and the addition was put on, I believe, in 789 as a school for a $350,000 grant. Was progressively going downwards. And I would say I was being kind. I remember when Stan and I did an analysis of the building back in 2014. Remember all those hours, Stan? And I think that I was being generous by saying it's a C, was it a C wrong addition. We have extreme problems with it. I'll cut to the chase. Extreme problems with the HVAC system and the plumbing. And there was a lot of issues with the building itself, which I won't get into unless somebody wants to know about that. But now to be pertinent, right now I would rate it out of that A1 condition. I think we need insulation and some spots in the front building, but basically this building's fine operating condition. Heating system has performed really well. We have two heating systems. The 624,000 BTU heat pumps, plus the gas furnace, which was just serviced, kept up every year. You have a maintenance agreement with that to take care of it. The water system has been updated, upgraded, and changed. The water softener system, and the UV system, which would probably disconnect because we only needed that for the school daycare. So I guess my answer to you is this building's a fine here. Yeah.
It's cosmetic. Cosmetic. I was just
Cosmetic.
some cosmetic. Wallpaper or something.
Well, you're looking at the tiles, which we've had all, Mark and I have had all times, because we had an issue back when, and that's why those were there. We're at one point, we're going to consider what we're doing about these million lights in here that they put in the schools. They got us, we almost spent $5,000 to upgrade the entire building. LEDs, which I'm glad that they do, because now we don't have 10. And there's 80 fixtures in this building. So, fortunately, we didn't start coming.
Gary, no, you're next.
There's been several suggestions about what to do. One was to move the town office here, which doesn't make sense economically to keep this building going 2 days a week, one Saturday. The other thing is, if you were to sell this building, you would have to put a well into the meeting house, because you get the water from the school right now. So, there's not. You sell the building, and you get money, you would have money to put a well in, and also to renovate the town office. If you need more storage, you can either go back or out to make the building a little bit bigger. We're using the money from the sale instead of taking it from the taxes. Might be a way to look at it.
Yeah. Stan, was that your hand that was up?
Yeah, thank you. Bruce, I know at one time there was an issue with installation for the smaller attic.
Yes.
Was that one sealed, or is it still in the condition it was that Guy Tanza and I are already pipe suits?
We disconnected the water to it.
You did.
We disconnected the water to up there, and we disconnected the water to the behind the boiler. Because when, as you know, what it did was heated the air for the school. We didn't need it. And it was causing problems way back when, like you were saying, Stan. It must have been 2015, 2016 back then. So it was a while ago.
Been around that, or was it near facilities?
I believe we had 2 freeze ups, well, no more. That's been disconnected. I had that done last year by Cumberland River. So we'll have to worry about that.
Sally? And then Jim?
Besides living in Brookline, I work as a realtor.
Speak up, what was that?
Besides living in Brookline, I work as a realtor, and because I pay dues, I have access to the multiple listing service. So I get to see, what real estate activity is happening in Vermont. So I'd be happy to pool that information for you all, depending upon which path we decide to take. And then Tom and I also have a property management business, so we do rentals. So I'd be happy to share what we know about that market with you all. I have heard discussion about moving the town office to this building and converting the current town office to residential. From a market point of view, that would be very desirable, because a small residential building, that's like the most desirable real estate in southern Vermont right now, is a small house, a relatively expensive house. In terms of marketability, this building is more problematic, and you probably experience that because you doubt if many people have been knocking on the door asking about this building. And if you drive around Brattleboro in the area, commercial and office space right now, it's doing horribly. It's all kinds of vacancy. Nonprofits are not doing well right now. Really, the only end of the market that is thriving is residential. So again, as you progress, likely to do some research on whatever to slow it down. Thank you.
Jim?
But the talk of this deal in says it's like a court walk through here and group. Decide how you would use your rooms and the most with transformers into the office with phone lines, internet, and all that. It was associated with make this
No, we haven't. But let's just say the sky's the limit as far as both of these buildings. We have an extreme amount of space in both of these buildings. And to convert this, in my estimation, to convert this to town offices is not that hard. The only thing that I really don't know about and would have to explore is about float. But other than that, it really comes down to what the town clerk would like. I mentioned to you, as you were like, months ago. I'm sure you did things. and she has to use it more than anybody else. And as far as discussing the use of the building, that's my own, it's just more important in my mind to determine what the town wants in terms of total focus on the two buildings. And if I can just go a little further, I've been thinking about this for a very, very, very long time. I never ever expected to be in the position where we are right today. Because Susie Krudemarsh, who was the proprietor, the second proprietor of the daycare, and is moving out, is about 54 years old. Well, I got shit. So that, but it happens. But it also occurred to me that this town had several needs. The obvious is this is going to be a total of $13,000 expensive. Not good. The second is, we don't have a town center. We're the only town in this valley, and I know that does not have a town center. I am trying to push forward as quickly as I can to get use of the annex so that we can start having, and church committee has done a wonderful job of getting events in there, and you guys have once a month year round, so that's what for that. From my vision, I passed this by Amy Cunningham, head of the Arts Council back in March, when I went to grant writing for the Art Council for the Culture Facilities Grant, which got the cost of installation grant over there, which we did get. And I told her what my ideas were, and she really liked them. Doesn't mean you want to like them, but I'm going to just sort of come with them. And my vision is, we have a housing problem. Everybody knows that. It would be kind of nice to sell the town office to somebody that can make a home at it. I think, Stan, maybe you can correct me, that it sets up a perfect situation for a person who needs more information. So if you need a construction loan to expand, or you're going to maybe add a kitchen or a bath to it, or add a room onto it, you've got the land, you've got the proximity, you've got functions, all set to go. If we do that, our money problems for the church and the retrofit of this building pretty strong. You should do whatever we have to do to here and whatever more we have to do in the church. And I'm not going to branch off and tell you what I project as costs for that. That's for a different time. But pretty much solve a lot of problems this time. And makes it so we have a community center. And going forward, I think that my opinion is we sell the town office, take the proceeds, make a town center, build up these two buildings, enjoy the buildings since they're meant to be.
Well, one thing I should have said at the beginning too is when I attended the select board meeting on Wednesday night, just recently, the board made a point of saying this may be the first of a number of meetings. No decisions are going to be made based on anything today. Some directions may be pointed out for the board to investigate, at which point they will do their due diligence and then come back to the town and see what the town thinks about that. So I meant to mention that at the beginning. So this isn't a finite, the only chance you'll have to weigh in on this as things become more apparent or, more obtuse, more meetings may happen. So Lori.
Sorry. And Sally can probably help answer this a little clearer. So a couple of thoughts that I've had about this. Flex space, a lot of people, like you just said, vacancies, rental, storefronts, that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of independent, I can't think of the word right now, but people who make things at home but need more space, like a home, too big, that maybe, that kitchen that's already in there. There seems to be the cafeteria, I believe. I don't know.
I think that was
Right. So flex spaces that people just don't need to rent a whole building, but they, you can even quarter this off. But upstairs, what are there? 3 classrooms? Each of those classrooms, I believe, have a bathroom.
there's 5 years.
Okay, so there's 3 businesses, or 6 businesses, if 2 people want to share it, you've got. I'm not saying necessarily realtors, but, people who can use those spaces on a limited basis. And share that space. Maybe keeping this still, because I know it's important for town meetings, for town meetings and big meetings are held. So that was one of my thoughts, and then the other thought is, again, back to the housing shortage. There are nonprofits out there that buy buildings and convert them into not necessarily or affordable housing, I would say. So you could do 3 small studio apartments upstairs. Yeah, they already have the septic in them. Kitchen may be an issue, but just housing is such an issue. And I know that there are nonprofits that do buy buildings, right, and convert them to affordable housing. I don't know who they are. We'll say, or for-profits, yeah, yes, actually, and have 250 just change rules, so to open up, see? So those are a couple of my.
Dot.
Madam Chair. I just wanted to remind people, the reason why the state care is moving is because of enrollment. And what had happened in the Newburgh school system or in the state of Vermont, we opened up 3-year-old and 4-year-old pre-K, which was a good part of population of students that the daycare handles. And with the limited amount of population in this area, moving to Brattleboro made a little bit more sense to get up to the 50 or 60 kids that the Sunny Lane daycare used to be able to work with. But I think they went down to like 25 students because of the daycare situation at Newbrook. Moving forward to about this building, I think that between now and maybe town meeting, you may want to get a realtor to evaluate the ability to rent this building out again. Maybe there's another school system that's looking to expand. And I'm not asking, I know Bruce put a lot of time into it and his property manager and is working as our building commissioner. I don't want him to think that I'm suggesting that he continue on this crawling under the eaves kind of position. You can always hire someone or put it into a lease or lease agreement that somebody else does the management of on calls. The lights aren't working today or something needs to be fixed. We also need to, and just to get an idea of the rentability of the building, because using the assets from coming in rent, we have been able to improve this building. And some of the monies has been used for the meeting house, and of course it can be used for other things as well. The town shed needs some protection for the winter supply, so the money can be used in that way. Realtor can also give us an estimate if there was a need to sell the building. It's over a 7,000 square foot building. It is going to be expensive to maintain. You don't want to copy it away. I mean, for 6 months or so, we may be able to, effectively keep some heat on in here and to keep the building from getting moldy. With internal all your services, you're going to have some building problems that will develop and be more expensive to deal with. So looking again at the realtor to the possibilities of renting and or the estimates of the possibilities of selling the building. As far as the well, I know you can probably put into a contract of sale, the sharing of the well, if you can, until such a time that a new well is built, if that's necessary. Figuring out all the other expenses of the cost of moving. While the town hall is a smaller building and more efficient to maintain, it does have its limitations, but we are not a full-time employee. We don't employ our town workers full-time. Our town clerk is the treasurers, the listers. We're not looking at hours, 100% occupancy for the building. So it is, there's a little tight there, but it could be worked on a little bit. You could do some improvements to town hall. I understand the need for affordable housing. Yeah, that's a possibility, but again, you're going to need some professional advice from a realtor about the feasibility of that. The town center, boy, it would be great. Have a nice town center, Boy Scouts could use a room, Girl Scouts could use a room, you could have things year round in here. We don't know yet what is possible, but that would mean keeping the building and, you know, the expense, we don't know the expenses. I know Bruce was saying it's about $1,000 a month to keep the building going. You said 12,000 a
You
year.
watch it for time
Looking this year.
this year.
That's a mothball,
We don't know.
mothball kind of.
Yeah, we don't know, what it actually will be, and I don't think you put into the plowing bid, the plowing of this area.
Yeah, what do we consider?
I don't know.
I know that we got, yeah, it's a couple thousand per plow.
Right.
In winter time, because you need to have access in case there's God forbid a fire. But, the town center is sort of an attractive idea, for Brookline. I think it's gonna need a lot more people to get involved in it and to come to meetings, because while, you know, Bruce and Stan and I worked as a 3-person board for 2 years and it was hard. You guys have a 5-person board. It's still a lot of work. We could use the expertise that's in the community to get things going and to get involved, and I'm sure it'd be much appreciated. Again, this is over a 7,000 square foot building. It's got a lot of options that we can do. I like having a little town hall. Too bad if we afford both, probably not unless one is partially rented. But again, I think any of the finality of buying or selling something, I think should be brought to an Australian ballot when there's all the options have been well thought out. And I don't think it's gonna occur between now and March 2nd, which is our next town meeting. But I think by that time, you may want to have part of the town meeting as a discussion on this and what you have found out between now and then. But eventually, when if you're going to do something permanent, I think you need to do it through an Australian ballot, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. voting, so that the masses of the community can really get their say in what's going on. But I know things are already coming out today. I know we were saying we were surprised there'd be more than 5 people here, but I didn't come in my slippers and I was going to. Yeah, appreciate you coming in. Do you need a little bit more? We're 580 people in town, 300 something residents. So everybody can chip in a little bit of time in their thought process and make it work. But yeah, I do think you need some professional assistance in realtor and such. Thank you for your time. That's 10 minutes.
See, Leslie, go ahead. Yes.
Thank you for that. I'm imagining that it would be assessment or appraisal before the realtor gets involved, right? It's like all other steps. Yeah, and in the case of it becoming like a town center, I would suggest that as a part of that consideration, the town maybe asks for proposals from people within the town of how they would use it, how much they would use it, what they would use it for, you know, how frequently, to really get a sense of the demand. So that for not just a survey, but actually asking people to not commit, but really request using space and see how much demand for that there is. My suspicion, what I've spoken to people at the BBCC about this, and they say that often towns presume or assume that there is a need for a town center, and it would be nice if you had a community space where people could use it. And then they go through the expense of the effort of getting that, and in the end, it's not used. And there's not actually a need, and we're just basing that change on assumptions. And then they're stuck with the burden of the state design meetings or having someone required to coordinate programming and try to get things going, which is its own difficult task. And so for any of you who are considering that, you know, community space would be wonderful and it would be so used, let's check our assumptions first before we go forward with that.
like our softball field, nobody's played that in that softball field, got 14 years that I've been on the board.
Well,
And I actually have a list of the towns that have tried that, making it a community space and what the results were, and it's not very rosy.
Tim,
I'm sure 5.6 acres approximately.
Not including the meeting house or not including,
My belief that is not including 7,000 less than that. All
Can this blower be turned on? Can this blower be turned on?
I noticed in the survey, Maryland,
Hard to hear.
they would modify society as they were transferring it over because the environment's help the town money. There's not for that through, so if I'm not mistaken, it's 5.5 sheet from 6, which you can like feel about. You know, and watch where back behind. So that's the basis size of sort.
here,
To follow up on Leslie's comment, there was a committee or a group of people quite a few years ago, Joyce Field involved in it. Some people had left, but we had a community free Thanksgiving dinner for whole town. And it was with the fire department. Because we had a space there in Bingo. We rented out. We had a lot of people there. We had like 5 turkeys, all the fixings. I mean, everybody here enjoyed it. And that committee kind of just petered out and we didn't do it before. So, you know, if you want a town center, you don't have to have it here. There's other buildings, there's Williamsville Hall, there's other places you could rent to bring people together, and it does work. Streets full of people came right in.
Stanley.
But I think either Alyssa or Fitch or Dan, they had their hand in the road. I didn't, you didn't.
I might have.
Well,
Uh, well, a lot of good points already made here today. Dan Teller, by the way. And a lot of food for thought, but I hate to see this building sitting here empty. And I love it being retained by the town, at least in theoretical sense. Because it sits right between the meeting house and the playground. It's a nice strip of town property. It makes it like a perfect like focal point for the town. I love the idea of unloading the other building. And you know, it could become housing or whatever it becomes, but you know, we got to find people to use these buildings. And already there are a lot of improvements are being made next door, make that more usable year round. At least the annex. And I just don't know if there's enough community need to find uses for in there and also the unused rooms in here. If we converted the town office or moved the town office over here. But I do love the idea of the town offices being in here. And perhaps this is like there's still enough space we could rent out part of it. Or I don't know what, either workspaces, studio apartments. There's a lot of space in here that we wouldn't need for a town office, but there's more space than the present building, at least for town records, for meetings. It's probably, this building's already probably more code compliant and energy efficient than town office. It sounds like the heating system is good, water, well, shared with next door, the water's good, etc. And there's more parking. There's a lot of ways that this building would lend itself to a better town office. There's this room for meetings. But you know, and if we sold the town office, that would provide money to keep this building up. Perhaps hire a buildings and grounds person that could look after all the town buildings, or at least help pay the expenses on this building. But again, finding tenants is the tricky part for, you know, finding uses for that space. If you don't want the space that's closed up part of the year. That's all I got for now.
Stanley,
You know, this is I think everyone's contributed some good valuable thoughts to focus on the value of it today. You know, looking at this from an appraisal standpoint and the comment that Gary had made, what is the economic sense, or it doesn't, you know, there may or may not be economic validity to this. You look at the options for this building and look at the options of the town needs, where would we, if we don't have this, where would we hold this kind of thing or town meeting? Would it be over in the meeting house or some other facility that we may or may not have to rent? And in terms of this particular building, what are the possible options? It could be converted to a multifamily with 7,000 plus square feet. You've got basically 4 living units. What would the rent be for 4 living units for an investor, private investor? And so there's an economic incentive for that. Then from a tax basis, what would we get for that building on every single year through paying of taxes, which in some sense lessens the burden of other individuals in town. So, you know, I look at our vault, I think is pretty small. There are 3 other vaults in this county that are our size. Athens, Jamaica, Townsend, and Dummerston. Jamaica's is a little larger, I'm sorry. But those other 3 are similar to ours, and those are bigger towns than ours. But I know Guy Cons at one point last year said, at a point, we're gonna have to put another row of shelving to handle the new transfers. That you don't agree with that. I'm interested in bringing this up for this reason. Discuss. I'm not saying it's fact or not, but it is small, very, very small, but it's appropriate for a town of this size. So, you know, someone else mentioned possibly town taking it over, renting the rest. I one, aside from where else do we hold a meeting for town meeting, that stands out in my mind for whatever reason is, what would the cost of building another vault, like we have in that other office, but bigger, to handle the security aspect of the town's needs through the town records, and 30,000, 50,000? Okay.
I don't know.
And the other details, you know, the devil's always in the details. There is a funky deed restriction to the town property that is there now, that we talked about at a Selectboard meeting. I have no idea. It could be a stickler point, but I think to eliminate that, the town would have to spend time and effort getting that easement released by the family that sold it to the town.
So we don't know.
Marjorie Red. We had Alyssa set up a great meeting with the state archivists, and they came to our vault and went through everything. We looked at what we have, and a lot of the things, well, not a lot, okay, I'd say maybe a third of what we have in the vault. It's really cool stuff that doesn't need to be in there. And they're like, you know, these you need, these things could be like in a library, or we would keep them, but they could be out on a shelf. They don't need to be in the vault. They're not something that a town clerk actually has to go. So there's space in the vault. The vault's fine. We don't really need a bigger vault. If we're gonna do an inventory, we're working with them on, you know, like let them know everything in there, and then things that we can. I mean, they pointed out whole shelves, like this whole shelf doesn't need to be, you know, neat history stuff, but doesn't need to be in the vaults.
Yeah, I don't think it's right or wrong answer. There are a lot of aspects of it. Probably ourselves and prioritizes what's important to us, and is it the economics or the social aspect?
It's a legal thing, like as town clerk, what like is under my purview to make sure that record's maintained, and I don't have to maintain certain books about the history of wars and things. Those don't have to be in the town hall. So,
Mike,
But just as I'm listening. Get more work for myself.
Why?
The thought comes to mind that, we, with this whole decision making, we would benefit from some, I'll call it financial modeling. Okay, so in my perfect world, we currently have a baseline, our current state. What's our financial position look like for the next 3 or 4 or 5, say 5 years? You know, what are we spending on everything? Current state, no changes. And then we could I'll call it play with the model on a range of assumptions. Keep everything going the way it is, sell one building, some assumptions about what we might get from estimates, what our operating cost might be, what our rental income might be zero, might be, we could do sensitivity analysis in a model that says if we can make all this happen, there's probably 10 different decisions we could make around everything I've heard. And we just develop some assumptions of what the financial impact of those assumptions would be. They're assumptions, we'd have to hit them. But, we could answer the questions at least about, how much it would cost, we think, to move over here and do what. So that's where my thoughts are right now, is to build a tool to help us with that. Either we build it or somebody else build it for us.
I'd like to go to John and then Sally.
John Louis, we like that. Mostly because developing the model will give you probably more insight than running the model. I mean, identifying the assumptions that need to go into the model, the number. So and that is a benefit to doing that modeling approach.
Sally.
To build on what Mike said, I think the cost benefit analysis for the various alternatives would be helpful. Because if there's more than just the money, there's also the social, which should be taken into consideration.
Dot.
I have to commend the board on their working for getting a grant writer for the town, which I met with her for about 3 hours. And unfortunately, due to personal reasons, because her husband got sick, she had to resign before doing grant work. I think the board needs to reevaluate and try to find someone to do grants. Because, for example, for the VLCT 2 years ago, I had a big grant for people to put in new vaults or to replace vaults. You remember that? So that there is money out there that can be useful, but your expertise and everybody gets done. Mike, we're so grateful that you're on the board with your financial background. I was thrilled when you said you were going to, just as thrilled as I was when Marjorie said she'd be town clerk. But, we're in good hands, but there's only, you've got a life. I know how much time this position takes, but if you could reevaluate the grant writer, I know that there was Samantha Bova advertised that she is a grant writer and she lives in Brookline, and so there are people who know the town that might be able to continue in that position. So I think you need to look at that as well.
I'm going to use my position for a moment to go back to something that Stanley alluded to. And it's a question of mine too. So I'm kind of out of my moderator role and being a taxpayer. There was some question at some point as to the town's ability to release that property based on the fact that that land was granted to the town, I believe, for the purpose of a town office. Is that a limiting factor now in going forward with the thoughts of selling that building?
I looked at the terminology in it and I was expecting to find that. It applies to the town garage, but it doesn't, the person that gave the town garage property specified it has to be used for town garage purposes. But that phraseology does not appear in the deed where we learning out town office. What it does say is when you look at the town office from the street, you notice the stone wall on the right side, on the south side of the lot. Basically, the hitch for that is you take and measure 25 feet over from that stone wall toward the town office building. Everything to the right of that is an easement to the family that gave it to the town to get to property they had at the time behind the town office across the river. So I don't know how much of a economic or deterrent that would be to a prospective buyer. To me, that would seem to be a no. And the town, as I mentioned, actually, and I'm in select board meetings in the last 6 months, that the town, if it is seriously considering divesting itself of that property, they contact the heirs and whoever owns is is that deeded the rights from whatever sale might have occurred to the property around it. That might be Johnson's, I'm not sure. Deal with that family to get that released from the property, which would make it much more palatable and saleable on the open market. So that's the little rub that's in that property. And it's a good question. I do not recall there's any phrase that says the use of that property must remain a town office. I'm 99% sure that's.
And the family who made the grant is available.
But I do not know because I didn't put in history to see where they are, who they are, whatever.
Yes,
I just have a quick question on your side, and I'm new to Brooklyn, so media's already been talked about. Everybody's like, yeah, cool idea, moving here, look at all the things we can do. And sell the other one. Is it possible, maybe after the financial models have been worked out, to have that be a revenue source and rent that? If it is single family resident, more likely, because it's so nice to have, income and letting go of it. I see how there's all these possibilities here. But in my very short life of being like a landlord and having that income, it's like, yeah, it's a ton of work, but in the long term, the Brookline of the future generations, like letting go of the building is so heartbreaking in a lot of ways, because what is the future? Could you not sell that and rent that and still entertain a lot of these potentials? And maybe it's been answered. I just wonder about.
I answer that.
Yeah,
You have to retrofit the building. You're talking about the town office.
yeah.
It doesn't have a kitchen,
Mhm.
very tiny baths. You have to put money into it
Mhm.
to satisfy. So that means that would have to be a little money.
The money that, yeah,
That basically the answer to that.
sure.
So that's what. No,
No, the person that would buy it
we're doing
would acquire a
structure.
purchase / renovation loan.
He's talking about renting it.
He's talking about renting. It's like renting.
Renting it?
Yeah, that was kind of my long way of saying, like, does it have to be sold? Could we rent it? And yeah, there's a cost thing for sure. But it's like the long vision, I guess. Yeah, that's all.
and how many rentals have evolved? Sally?
So, a couple of points, I think before the town gets into any rental situation, the town should consider the fact that that becomes like a chore to have to manage that property. Whereas when you sell the property, you get the money, there's no ongoing obligation. The second thing is that to try to sell that current town office and expect someone else to do the renovation, I think is a little long shot. I think that would really deter the saleability. So I think it would be important for the town to do the conversion to a single family and then it would sell one.
Gary and then Stan.
Follow up on Stan's, comment about getting permission from the previous family. Wasn't there a restriction on this building too?
The only restriction that I found on this was, and I didn't go back through all of these, the only restriction I was aware of, which we had gone through, was that there was a construction loan advanced to the town of Brookline by the Department of Education.
Okay.
It was a couple $100,000, I think, maybe it was around 25,000. So we had the hook that they had to make sure they got their money back, but you couldn't just turn around and sell the building. When we in fact took it over from Union, so West River Union District, we spoke with our legislators. I don't know if this all like property use as well. We called our legislators and talked to whoever we could. And what happened is a negotiation developed whereby they allowed the transfer to go through for $1. We couldn't, as a town, sell this property for 5 years. That's expired now, so we should be able to do. And again, that's only where the town should be able to do that.
The other point I wanted to make is for cutting town expenses, that's in our office. When we was talking about at one point putting solar in, I don't know who owns those trees by me on property there. But the building sits for most of the week. The solar energy would cut back on the electricity usage by running the meter backwards. I know we've had solar for 25 years all off the grid. And it is cost effective. However, the current administration doesn't like solar. You're cutting back on a lot of the reimbursements. So that's the other side of the coin, but it certainly would be something to think about. Or even just build.
Bruce.
I want to dovetail back for some things that points people are making that I just want to get on really quickly. The first thing, I like what Dan said about the full, I want everybody to try and think of all thinking about doing by making a town center, and you use the word focal point. I think it's really important. Another point that no one has said, I've known for a while, that front school building that was moved down to here is 1927. No one's ever said that's a historical building. It's not on the historic registry. It's almost 100 years old. Next, I had a new person that bought land next door sent me an email, and he couldn't be here today. His name is Jeff Bayer, and he wanted to spew in some of his ideas. So I told him I would say them. He thought a community center was a good idea. Maybe music and dance events. We're kind of having that now across in the church, and community suppers. Of course, we've had that before. And you also you could rent out for weddings, birthdays, anniversary parties, etc. This is the person has never nothing else once yet really but he's showing interest in the town, which is great. And he also stated rooms. The rooms upstairs, 790 square feet apiece. You could use artists could use the studio spaces. We goes back to what we were talking about a little while ago, possibly running on sections, etc. Now, I want to also just state what Marjorie was talking about the town records and what needs to be in there. Yeah, Bruce has thought about this too. Well, here's the thing. If we can move forward in finishing the church, maybe the vestibule will be used as our history section of the Vermont Arts Council in 2 years, because we got a grant this year. We could get a grant for cases for the vestibule area to put all our, we have a bunch of historic stuff, I believe, in the vault that could come out of the vault. Also, with respect to the vault, how about those land maps? It's the land maps that are in the main room that we pull out the drawers.
Lister maps.
Lister maps could go in the vault. So we were thinking about spending $10,000 to replace that those drawers, but now that could also be in the vault. So this is just a couple of points that I was writing down as you all were talking. And that's about it for now. So I like to hear what
Mike.
also saying. Mike.
Two quick things. I think I heard from Bonnie Nicholson, the lady who's living in the red brick house kind of across from the town hall right now. And I know she said in passing to me over time that her ancestor, her grandfather or somebody, is the one that donated the land. And she has their land wraps around behind, as far as I know. So I think the heirs are around and available. I think if I heard that right. The other thing on town stuff, I'm not a big fan of buying more cabinets and bigger safes. I'm a fan of putting somehow electronically storing this stuff. The idea of buying more drawers and furniture, as a concept, I'm not a fan of. Get it secured electronically somehow on a web.
Leanne.
Leanne Johnson. I'm not one to typically speak up during meetings, but there were some things said, and I did want to throw in some support for investigating retaining this building to use as a community center. I was actually very upset when the daycare and preschool walked here. There is not a preschool. I think
Don't they cover?
in their park district, so they can go to Townsend or the Jamaica.
I take that back then, yeah, but that's
I'm actually a board member.
right.
This past summer or late spring, we actually were in a situation where we might not have had enough space for Or returns. It had to do not necessarily number of butts and seats, but there were some kids with high special needs, which I'm seeing a trend of that increasing. So we were talking about having to limit that. On top of that, we may be getting rid of that Jamaica space altogether as a school district. It has been brought up to us very lightly by the town of Jamaica that they want to revote to close down that building. I don't know if they have ideas. I'm not from Jamaica. I don't follow it close enough. But retaining the building would provide flexibility here. You could do the rentals for, even personal events in the space here. You can do the artist studio. I don't know if you want to get rid of the other building and move to town clerk's office and treasure all that over here too. That would be something to consider. I think it would be smart, at least for the future, where everything educational wise is completely up in the air. Like, we don't know if we're gonna have our schools in 5 years right now. To retain the building for its flexible use.
Yes, Emily.
Thank you so much, everyone, for all of your insightful comments. I had a question for you guys. It seems like the board is going to have to make some choices soon on what next steps for investigating the uses of all these buildings and what our options are, which might have some costs, like appraisals, maybe a feasibility analysis for this building. I think I know the answer to this, but I'd love to hear from you so that when we vote, I can have that in my mind. Are you all okay with us spending some money and then before next meeting to get professional help to get the information we need?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, takes care of that.
Please.
You want to vote on that formally?
How much?
Can we actually vote on?
We could vote on it. No, I'm like.
Get it.
Not today.
It wouldn't be binding, but we want to do
The
it for.
funding source could come from the, it's technically called the rainy day fund. But it's, what's it called? You put $20,000 into it for emergency use for unexpected expenses. And so while that needs to be increased budget wise every year a little bit, but there is money that would not have to be raised by taxes that's already been raised and is in an account. So there is money.
Okay, Garrett?
And one of the discussion about, does the select board want to be a land? I mean, it's a lot of responsibility. Bruce is running around like a chick with his head cut, head's gone. It's really a lot of work on an individual, or even if you hire somebody, you got the expense of hiring a manager, so. I don't know, Bradley doesn't seem like it's a good thing to me.
Are you asking the chair of the select board if they want to be landlord? Yeah. Because the answer is no.
Yeah, it's like, rental, right? The room is right. The chicken's head is gone, I don't know, it's, falls, and go on,
Think how much more work.
don't start.
Dan's got the floor right now, and then Emily, and then Marjorie. Somebody else remember that? Is that okay?
I was interested in the rest of Marjorie's sentence, but I just a simple point regarding having, regarding owning both the meeting house building and this building. I think this room lends itself a lot better to town meeting and other large scale meetings than what we have over there, because the sanctuary part of the building is not probably ever going to be heated year round, and the annex is too small.
Okay.
Yeah,
Emily, you were next?
Just a quick comment based on what Gary said about wanting to be a landlord. This kind of is going beyond this meeting, but it seems like in this day and age, of course, I've only been on the board for less than a year, but we're reaching capacity for a lot of things with a 5-person board. I think building management, even thank goodness we have Mark build our roads. I don't know what we would do without him. The grant writer that we almost had and needed to get another one. For a 500-person town, there is so much to do. Things are so expensive that I think this is going to be a bigger discussion for the town and how we manage all of the different projects and things we have to do, not even the things that we want to do for community development. So just saying that out loud, we're gonna have to get a little bit more sophisticated here because there's a limit to how much 5 people can do.
Marjorie.
Yeah, I agree. It felt like we had a lot of people that were wanting to chip in and help out, but. I mean, just even maintaining that little town office building, it's like, for me, it's almost like having another house. I don't like having to do trash, right? We have somebody come in and clean once a month, but there's so many other things to do. I mean, literally just dusting and just all the little stuff it's like my little second home. And I don't want this as a little second home. That's speaks so much. I thought we had a building manager that was like always, which we do have Bruce, but he's gonna retire. He's getting tired of it. So and so we're gonna have to hire. Or like, so I don't know.
Okay, Leslie first and then Alicia.
Yeah. So, and when I consider the number of times that this space is used currently for something public, I think it's the once a year town hall. I know that the meeting house is used in the summer for a town party. If there are more events that I'm not aware of, then let me know. But it seems like if there's really only one summertime outdoor event and one wintertime indoor event, that it makes a lot more economic sense to just rent the fire department. They have that giant room that's already heated to the game. So I just, again, return to sort of that same message I said before, like, it's to have a ton of space that's not actually being used is just, to me, seems like, let's stay small and lean and keep the town office that we have, not need to expend to move a vault and renovate and things, and take the burden of this whole building off of the shoulders of the town. And,
I know that.
the buyer will do what they do, and we can't necessarily predict that, or control it, but just given that there's not additional, there's not a lot of people volunteering to be on the select board, there's not a lot of people who are giving up their time to do these extra tasks that it takes. I think realistically, why take on a burden that isn't currently even being supported? There's not enough support to make that financial and resource burden feasible. So I don't know. I imagine if we have this space, it's gonna be empty a lot, and that breaks my heart.
Okay, Alyssa and then Leanne.
Okay, well, I am in favor of keeping this building for the town. And the history of the school, of when the school was moved to the vestry, when the town decided to move the school, all that would be lost in a way if this building is sold and someone just doesn't care about that. And that's for the future also, when we're no longer here, for future residents or people that come through and stumble upon the round schoolhouse and just think it's the greatest thing, which Marjorie sees a lot. I've seen a little when I'm at the town office, but it's really fun and people get so excited to see these old buildings. I think something different from the existing town office to this building is that building is not historical. And if this building is registered as historical with the state or national register, that opens up a whole funding for grants that the town office is not available for now, because it would be more historical grants. Let's see. I definitely am in favor of a maintenance and grounds person for Brookline. And it also gives back to someone in the community, like you're helping someone in the community and they're helping the town too. And we need someone because it feels really bad having to call Bruce or email. I haven't done this about
there's a mouse in the mousetrap or whatever, like, or there's mouse poop in the file drawer. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is like, I don't want to open a file drawer and have mouse poop all of it. But that is like, you know, oh, yeah. I think it's got in here, yeah. We're in fine, but I don't want to have to bother someone that's just volunteering.
Let's just tease.
It'd feel better if it's someone that's their job, because.
I signed up for it, was like. Stop it.
And there's like little projects too, just around the office where even, like Marjorie, the guy would be salting the stairs and out shoveling or,
Yeah.
and it's just like, does the town clerk have to do that? Or like, you don't want to clean the toilet, I know.
March that point.
Yeah, and Mark shouldn't be doing it either. That's not in his job, description. So we definitely need a maintenance and grounds person.
Okay, Leanne, you were next, then we'll go to Sally and Dot, and then Bruce.
Okay, several things, my great financial help, whatever you can do, put together a plan. Emily, totally with you on the whole, we need to know where we are financially. After hearing all of this, I'm moving towards thinking, why does the town of Brookline want to get into the rental business? I know we had this discussion when the school was leaving, kind of reviewing that. And just knowing how much time and effort it takes to make sure that the building is maintained. If you wanted to open rooms for other people to use, you have to have somebody here that's overseeing it. It's coming in, making sure that everything's being handled correctly. I know with the meeting house is a little bit different in my mind because it's grants and donations and a lot of that type of thing that's keeping that building going and that's continuing to improve that building. It's all taxpayer money to be able to do this. So whereas I understand it's got a lot of historical background and such, I don't see the number of people in this town stepping forward to help out. 9 years at the meeting house, we did okay. We have people that were very dedicated to that building. I don't know, do we have the same type of dedication to this building for keeping it open and keeping it functioning when we have the meeting house that we're moving towards making that kind of a community center as well. So I guess I haven't really settled on any one thing, but it seems to me that a lot of energy of the select board and a lot of money could be put into a town physical plant manager. Seems like an awful lot of money for that, whereas looking at it from a different way, if this building was not here, we could make use of the meeting house more fully. And get that place totally locked up and usable as a physical place, which it's not really being used for now. So I don't see the demand for space. I don't see people knocking on the door asking to use the meeting house a lot, as far as I can tell from past history. So I'm a little skeptical about being able to rent this place out and sell it when you've got the money and you can put it into the other physical plants. Make a decent town shed area for use in the winter time, which seems like every year it comes up at town meeting to, putting a cement floor in over there, putting a bathroom in over there. So thanks for,
Sally?
In terms of marketability, I see this building as being very difficult to sell. I mean, there are people who are converting to housing, but the effort to get there, I think, would take years. We're not in Brattleboro where there's a strong rental market. we're in Brookline. And I wouldn't anticipate that putting this building on the market would result in immediate profit.
Dot, you were next.
I just want to concur with what Leanne just said, is that we should take Mike up on his idea of doing some assessment, some marketing, some plan, financially what ifs kind of thing. And Emily, again, also for digitizing some of the information that we can to save on the space. But this is not gonna, we're gonna continue the open dialogue. We're gonna have more information. We're not going to jump to do anything. I think we should hire realtor to look at some of these things and make it more of a formal proposal on what actually is out there. You said that there's some kind of pool of information that can be studied. So I think there's a lot to be cut out for again, using the Australian ballot to get the final decision when it gets made, and not to jump to get anything done in the next 2, 3, 4 months, as things goes. And then an aside, if you have dead mice that have not been poisoned, my sister is having a fundraiser for the bird sanctuary or rehabilitation. So if you have frozen dead mice, donate.
Should have warned me.
They're doing, yes. Thank you very much. Okay, second one.
Yes.
Okay, I'm like you, I love that. I'm Julie Cruz. I moved a few years ago. I think that this place is really great. I think that historic buildings and stores are beautiful. I have a question about the land this actually sits on. If we were to take from the end of the building and go that way, is that land sellable at all to like real estate or anything? So then maybe we can combine right up to the side of the building to maybe the meeting hall and have that like a little park in the middle for the kids or something, instead of having that, all that area on that side. That was just a thought I had. The other thing is, I think we should keep this for right now. I'm with you with the buildings and school. The school I work at it right now, it fluctuates so much. We have like 19 kids in the ones in preschool. It might be something they're gonna have to do, is look for alternatives like this, and it practically won't happen right away, but, and especially if they close Jamaica, that's almost, they got 15, 20 there and another whatever. But they're gonna have to start looking for places in, and this might be a possibility. It would have to be brought up to their standard code standards or whatever and stuff like that. But I do think that extra land there spread out too much, and so I think, yeah, at least so that the building for the town hall right now, even though it's newer and better than when it was in there, I think there could be a balance in there. That we could take a little bit of that, make it fix the room up functioning, and combine them, but that was just a thought.
Okay, I just want to give you a heads up. The board had listed 10:30 as a possible stop time, adjourn time for this. We're about 5 minutes away from that now, so. Let's see, Bruce, you've had your hand up, and then Pat.
I don't know if anybody's considered those, but I sure have. We have an issue, we're trying to rebuild and make the church beautiful. Let's put it that way. And in order to straighten out the mold issue in that building, there's a number of ways you can approach that, and all over this with historic preservation and government plans. But Leanne came up with a great idea, and Mike gave an idea that we need to. Back about 3 years ago, thanks to our wonderful President Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, Pat Leahy, and then again Congressman Peter West got us a ton of money, so we were able to build up our road situation with the vehicle, with the equipment that we got. But part of that was putting money into the church. But it was also with ARPA, we were able to put $30,000 worth of heat, and nobody really thinks about this, and when we bring it up to $30,000 heat pumps in this building. Well, we don't need those here. What's to stop us from putting them in the church?
It's not ideal. And that was what he had tried me. And I thought, I said, look too much take these, but you said when he posts. But yeah, I don't like paraphrasing misquoted. So that's a thought, but we do have an issue in that point. Before we can paint that building, the mold has to be resolved. And that goes on a whole nother long explanation, which I'm not gonna get into, but that's just one idea. Now, one other point is, everybody keeps pertaining to, well, the building's not gonna be used well, the building's like, maybe not, maybe not. But if you have nothing that's attractive to attract a person to it, the building's not gonna be used. That's kind of what we're doing with the vestry red, when it's being painted, it'll be done by the end of the week. But it's just, it's already, the church has already increased in the last 5 years in terms of its, with its summer parties. And the wonderful things that the church committee has done by getting, events in there. And like I said, Peter Myers, from what I saw, him, be really nice if we could just have an event in there once a month. That would be a starting point. I'm not saying it's an ending point, but it opens a whole new world. Make a town center, you're opening up. What you're doing, in my mind, is you're making this town a permanent town for 100 or 200 years. We had this discussion guy and I back at a Selectboard meeting with way back when, and I asked him about the population. The population hasn't changed that much in this town over the course of the last 12 years. I figured that's all they think. That doesn't matter. What matters is we don't have a town center. We need to respect our historical structures, including the front building here. And the town office is not a historic structure, and we need to use what we got to the best of our advantage. The one idea that Leanne came up with, he posted one example of that. So, no, I'm not. Short-term rentals is one thing. The person's gonna come in and rent it for a weekend, so that's one thing. That's not hard to manage type of situation, especially in this building, this snap-fits. But if you're gonna do a long distance knowledge, that's a different issue. Especially if it's in, excuse me, at their school, because then you get in the state involved. You don't want to go off on that subject because you don't want to hear it. So that's basically it.
Pat, you were next.
Oh, just a comment from if we hire a grounds person or maintenance person. It's another whole salary and, you know, everything that goes with that. And then my other question was, Julie, were you talking about selling the ball field?
Yeah, from that end, is that part of something that we could do to cut the, you know, like combine these two places together so we can have space in between, even makes, or my idea was putting all those things to put out like our parks and gazebos and you know, like that, something between us that we could use and then get rid of, if it's buildable land, I have no idea. It floods, it floods, yeah. So I don't know if anybody will want to like.
Okay, so let's touch on a data point, that's floating around in my mind relative to the discussion. With the nursery school here,
Yeah.
that the rents that we charge them, we're spinning off about $20,000 a year of available cash that historically went to reduce our taxes, but we were planning then create capital. But the point is, when it was rented, it spun off 20,000. Now, so I guess what I'm saying, now if we could rent it again, and I don't know what we'd get, maybe less, but with that, whatever was that spun off cash, potentially for a few years, Bruce would potentially hire somebody to do the work you're doing on a volunteer basis right now and carry the building for a while without the select board having to spend their weekends. So, wait a minute. So, and then, so right now with it empty, our best guesstimate right now is it's gonna cost us 13,000 in this next year, when and if the folks do leave, they're still here. So we're still in that plus scenario. So think about those numbers. 20 grand spun off with it full. Yeah. Maybe. And 13,000 of cost if we carry it empty. There's still two numbers thrown out.
Yeah.
Marjorie.
What if we just put it in ad and said available for rent and see if anybody calls it? I mean, is that when can we just do that? I manage two properties, and so I mean, I know we have really saying that, oh, people are asking about it, but I mean, someone calls, that would sort of be like, oh yeah, she's right.
So, but
Sally and then Laura.
to follow up on that, we advertise commercial space on Craigslist. It costs $5 a month. So if the town is willing to pay $5 a month, I could put an ad up for rent of this building and see what kind of response comes in.
On the agenda.
For next let me know, but yes, it's pretty.
Lori.
So, just a quick question, did we counter rent? Counter offer rent, so I had heard through the grapevine that the town increased rent of Susie's little daycare. So did we counter and try to keep them here, because from what I've heard is that they're having troubles getting into their place, they looked at a couple of other places even and explored, so have we gone back to the drawing board? Because it is a great community. I mean, I know a lot of people who now take their kids to Brattleboro and come back to work at Grace College. You know, so and we were providing a pretty good service, or not providing, but allowing someone to provide a good community service here. So have we gone back to Susie's and said, you've been, I think, good tenants for however many years.
Yeah.
They want to keep you.
I think we can respond to that.
Bruce.
Try to make it work. Which is rare for me. We had a meeting with Susie, Olivia, Steph, who ran this, who was the director of this building, back in the spring negotiating lease, how were you? Then Olivia got up flat out and said, first thing out of her mouth was, we had no way, no Jose, could accept an increase in on lease. Now, it's even $5. The increase was that much, wasn't more than
$50 a month was
$12 a month when they turned it down.
basically
Yeah, and so that wasn't
initially.
right. That wasn't the problem. The problem was, and it was told to me by them.
Can I just correct my statement?
Yep.
We propose, I think, keeping it flat for year one,
Right.
and then going up $50 a month in year two, and another $50 a month in year three. If that's what, I don't forget if that was the first.
Something like that.
Oh,
Switched it back.
yeah,
I had to justify to the town that we were gonna flatline their lease for a portion for 3 years. How am I gonna tell you folks that, given all you know about increasing costs, that we're not gonna increase their lease costs? But they were getting things on the cheap in their other centers, so they were looking at that. And they also got something on the cheap in Brattleboro. Okay. Susie tried real hard. I know her really well, and I know her attitude when she first came in March, when it was, I think it's 2020. And she was really going that way. She was determined. She said, I'm gonna get the people in here, I'm gonna get the kids in here, etc. Well, then and now, there's none of the original staff. Never. And they're pulling out now, of course. So there's a lot to it. I don't think you all want to hear all the details, but basically its direct answer is yes, we did. Yes, we did have this discussion multiple times. I even when they were getting ready, when they already started the commitment of moving out and going with their new center in Brattleboro, and they were having issues. They still have an issue. They were supposed to be out July 1st, and they're under no lease right now, but I have a letter to prove that they're complying with it. They said no comply with the old lease until we leave. So we have a great relationship.
and no increase.
And no, it is the old lease. And so they were supposed to be out July 1st, and this counts all of us a $2,400 bill for help. To add to this.
And just real quick to add to this, after we came back with the no increase, we were throwing in some other things that were beneficial to them. We offered to replace the lighting that needed to be replaced at a cost of $5,000 approximately to the town, would have reduced their energy costs. So we did things to try to keep them here, and they decided no.
Yep, and also, you have to keep in mind that we used 3 years ago. Their cost on energy, no BS here, was like $24,000 a year. Went to like that.
Oh,
But they still moved out.
yeah.
So it wasn't working, it wasn't to do with us. It was
It was there.
another thing. And it was also a staffing thing. And they were having a hard time keeping staff in.
Yeah.
And you know, they don't want to go on the beat, they don't want to come from Buffet to come over. It's too much of a drive. And go figure, I got a 5 o'clock 40 for 25 years and all kinds of crap. It's too much for that. We're gonna tell you. But what's it to do with us? We were just about pretty tight with that lease and we had, how long was that? That was like an hour meeting with the Susie. What's gonna happen?
Okay, Stan.
Yeah, this time you probably saw the article in the newspaper announcing their departure from here and going to Brattleboro. I think currently she has what, 23, 25 students.
When I saw Steph 3 weeks ago, they were down to 11.
Okay, well, bottom line, the article, she said they were gonna have 23 students in Brattleboro. And where she has 5 staff now, she's gonna hire 10 staff. So their rental scenario's gotta be really sweet to allow that exchange. So I don't know what we could have done here to keep them staying here.
Yes, well, compare. It is. So, I don't know what the total, I know it's real sweet. They're retrofitting the building for her. But look where they're going. They're going in the Allard building behind, well, West Vermont Navy, now it's the sheriff's office. And I even asked Steph a couple weeks ago, they just have windows at the end of the building. Compared to all of this at the outside and being able to be in a nice community like this. But it didn't work for them. We couldn't give away this building. This started to be as a giveaway building with the WCSU. Scott, help me out here. It was $500 a month. I mean, it's definitely trying to bring up the rental to make it worthwhile for the town. Otherwise, it wasn't worth it, right? We finally got up to $2,400 a month, and that money in the last 5 years rebuilt this damn building. Excuse me. I'm more excited. Sorry. A lot of years. Rebuilt this building, and now you have the benefits of that rental for the last 4 or 5 years of fixing it. So that answers your question.
Anybody want to offer anything that we haven't heard yet? Yeah.
Patient open and encourage, and I will help where I can too, but encourage people to step up. I think that's the main issue.
Gary.
Really off subject.
Nice.
So, we're so lucky to have Art Hills live in town, maintain the roads, the culverts, the ditches, the trees, the roadside mowing, and there was a lot of controversy about buying the wheel excavator in the past. And it was a smart move because that had saved us tons of money. And he's in any kind of emergency, if he gets contact, he's right there, free across the road or whatever. Which is so lucky to have.
Now you have a padded road fund right now. That's probably not a fair word. It's road cheap. And now we have big roads to help them with us.
Yeah.
Right. You've been after this for like 3 years, Don, remember? And Mark's a little reluctant to have help. Well, it's working out very well. And that's a great thing because I'm really concerned about his safety working. Well, yeah, that's really dangerous equipment. Well, I don't care if it's just a steel chainsaw or that excavator just need to do that.
Emily.
And one more last point, Andy.
Well, you don't have the floor actually, but you interjected. So Emily.
Well,
If you, just so you know, if you emailed all the select board members, you're unlikely to get any kind of real response from us. Because we have to be really careful with open meeting law. And if we're all 5 of us are on a meeting talking about the town, it's a meeting that hasn't been noticed and it's a problem. So if you ever want to communicate with us, come to the select board meeting. We hear members of the public at the very beginning, so you don't have to sit through the whole thing. And please come and share your concerns, your thoughts, your ideas. It'll be a lot easier now. You don't have to come in person. Just emails, like they're great for getting information, but it's really hard for us to communicate as a board with the town way. So please.
Fur.
When we talked about putting it on Craigslist just to see what was out there, if there was some interest, what would you be asking for rent?
$500.
And what would you ask? So
it wasn't my suggestion. It was somebody else. But it's the town's building.
Marjorie.
Marjorie Rigg,
I wouldn't put it on Craigslist. If I was doing it, I would put it on Zillow because as a property owner, it's free. And then the people contact you and it's really pretty effortless. I'd say we'd have to discuss all of that before doing it, including the rent, but, just to sort of test to see if you get any response. I think it's a worthwhile venture.
So since no one's thrown on a number, just say that we were getting 2,500 a month for the whole building.
2,400.
24?
Anyone else, or have we exhausted the oxygen?
One point, real quick,
Real quick,
the gravel shed that came up is gonna be built hopefully very soon, very economically as opposed to like a range idea that came up 3 years ago. Good. Did I do that in 30 seconds? I just heard that collation.
okay, good job, Bruce. That was real quick. Unless the select board, do you feel like you've gotten enough information here?
I think this has been very helpful. Take some food home with you. So that,
It's nice that you know.
Where'd food come from?
Sue DeSocio.
Man,
Oh,
You have some on the way out.
Excellent.
I'm gonna take some.
I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So, that's what I figured. Make a motion, said great first meeting.
Is there a second to that?
I think it do, we got
It's like a familiar one. There you are.
I'll make up.
What's that?
Adjourn.
Okay, select board has to take that.
Second.
All right. All in favor of adjourning, say aye. Let's go home.